The rent renewal hits your inbox and it's ugly. You open it anyway because you've been telling yourself the same thing for months. Fine, if rent is going to climb again, I'll just buy. Then you run the numbers in New York or LA or Miami, pick your poison, and the mortgage quote lands like a punch. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance. The monthly payment isn't just higher than rent. It's a different universe. According to Bankrate's 2025, rent versus buy study, renting is cheaper than paying a mortgage in all 50 of the largest U.S. metros, and nationally the average mortgage payment costs about 38% more per month than the average rent. That's not a cute statistic, that's a pressure cooker. Now zoom in on the starter home dream, what most people actually shop for. According to Realtor.com's June 2025 rental report, renting a starter home is still more affordable than buying in 49 of the 50 largest metros, with average monthly savings around $908. Pittsburgh is the lone outlier. So when someone says just buy, the real question is, buy where, buy when, and buy under what risk? Because the math is moving. And a lot of people are about to learn it the expensive way. Pull up 10 big city zip codes, and the story changes depending on which side of the deal you're standing on. If you're a renter, the math is screaming wait. If you're a buyer, the math is daring you to overpay for certainty. If you're an agent, a lender, a landlord, a builder, this gap is your pipeline risk and your opportunity in the same breath. According to Bankrate's 2025 rent versus buy analysis across the 50 largest U.S. metros, renting is cheaper than carrying a mortgage payment in every single one of them, and the average mortgage payment runs roughly 38% higher per month than the average rent. That's the baseline pressure. It explains why so many would-be buyers keep hovering, waiting for a break that doesn't really show up. Then you look at starter homes, the place where first-time buyers actually try to enter, and it gets sharper. According to Realtor.com's June 2025 rental report, renting a starter home is more affordable than buying in 49 of the 50 largest metros, with average monthly savings around $908. And Pittsburgh is the lone exception. That's not trivia. That's why demand feels weird. The aisle just by crowd is getting boxed out by the monthly payment, not by the price tag. So I pulled 10 major cities: New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Miami, Chicago, Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C., and treated them like a stress test. Not a debate, a decision. Where does renting buy you time? And where does renting trap you? Where does buying make sense even when it hurts? And where is buying basically a premium subscription to regret? If you want more data-first real estate breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what city and country you're watching from. That's how this channel keeps funding deeper research. For transparency, every data source cited in this video is listed in the description. You don't have to argue philosophy to see what's happening. You just have to look at the monthly number. Start in San Francisco. Los Angeles is the same movie with a different filter. Typical rent, $3,005. Typical mortgage payment, $5,663. That spread forces behavior. Renters stay renters longer. Buyers either stretch, compromise on location, or hunt for something smaller than they planned. Meanwhile, sellers keep hearing that rates might come down, so they sit tight, and inventory stays weird. Seattle puts the math in neon. Bankrate's typical rent is $2,265, and the typical mortgage payment is $4,971. That's where you start seeing the psychological trap. The buyer is paying a premium for over a fixed payment, control over schools, control over a sense of permanence. The premium is real, but so is the fear that rent will jump again. Operators who ignore that fear miss deals. Operators who exploit it without warning clients about cash flow risk create blow-ups later. New York is where the conversation gets personal fast. Bankrate lists the New York Metro at $3,253 rent versus $4,963 mortgage payment. On paper, that gap looks smaller than the West Coast. In practice, it's still brutal because New York households already carry high fixed costs. The payment doesn't land in a vacuum. It lands on top of childcare, transit, taxes, everything. This is where buyers start asking questions that sound simple and are actually lethal. If I am paying almost $5,000 a month, why does it still feel like I'm renting from the bank? That question kills urgency. It slows the market. It reshapes who transacts. Washington, D.C. is a cleaner example of the same pressure. Miami is where the rent feels like a punch and the mortgage feels like a threat. Bankrate shows $2,721 rent versus $4,449 mortgage payment. Miami's been living through a demand shock for years, and the monthly gap tells you what happens next. Renters who can't stomach another renewal want to buy, but the payment is high enough to make them hesitate. That hesitation shows up as churn, more lease extensions, more let's wait 6 months, more deals that die when insurance quotes come back ugly. Even if you don't say the word insurance out loud, it's sitting inside that mortgage number, haunting it. Now flip to Chicago. Dallas-Fort Worth is where people expect the math to be friendly, then it surprises them. Houston looks similar, but softer. $1,689 rent versus $2,474 mortgage payment. It's still a premium, still real, but it's the kind of premium households can plan around if They're honest about maintenance, taxes, and the fact that life happens. Atlanta lands in between. $1,902 rent, $2,533 mortgage payment. Not cheap, not insane, just enough spread to create a market full of almost buyers. That's the most unstable category. People who are financially close, emotionally ready, then one unexpected cost pushes them back into renting for another year. One more thing that matters. These bank rate mortgage payments assume a 20% down payment, no HOA fees, and they include property taxes and homeowners insurance, using a national average 30-year fixed rate around 6.90% over the prior year. In the real world, plenty of buyers bring less than 20% down, run into HOA dues, or pay PMI. Translation: for a lot of actual households, the buy-side number is higher than what you just heard. The gap isn't shrinking because you wish it would. It's shrinking only when prices, rates, or carrying costs bend. Until then, rent for size buy isn't a debate. It's a stress test, city by city, household by household. Here, that's where the rent versus buy argument gets people into trouble. They treat it like a math problem with one variable, the mortgage rate. In 2025, the rate mattered, sure, but it wasn't the only lever pulling the room around. The rent side started behaving differently. The supply side started showing up in places where it hadn't in years, and the owning number kept getting sneakier because taxes and insurance don't sit still. Bankrate study is a good anchor because it forces you to look at the full carrying cost. Their mortgage payment estimate includes property taxes and homeowners insurance, assumes 20% down, and uses a national average 30-year fixed rate around 6.90% over the prior year. That's a clean model, but it also hints at the landmines. A lot of real buyers don't have 20% down. They pay PMI, they buy condos with HOAs, their buy number is often higher than the headline, and the gap gets uglier in the same cities where rent already feels like a punch. Now look at what happened late in 2025. Freddie Mac's weekly survey shows the 30-year fixed rate ended the year at about 6.15%. Lower than the spring, lower than the 2024 end, and it helped no question. Reuters also reported that pending home sales jumped in November, with NAR pointing to improved affordability from lower rates and wage growth versus home prices. That's the first crack of daylight buyers have felt in a while. But here's the thing. Even if rates drift down, the payment in many big metros is still heavy, because prices reset higher in 2022, and never truly gave it back. Meanwhile, rent didn't behave like it did in 2021 either. Apartment List's national rent data shows the median rent fell 1.0% in November 2025 and had 4 straight months of declines going into year-end. That doesn't mean rents are cheap. It means the rent engine cooled enough to give renters breathing room at the exact moment buying still looked expensive. Apartment List also notes supply is part of that. More than 600,000 units delivered in 2024 and roughly another 500,000 in 2025, with elevated completions continuing into 2026. That supply pressure doesn't hit every city equally, but when it hits, it changes the rent versus buy calculus in a way people don't expect. In markets with heavy new apartment deliveries, rent growth can stall, concessions show up, and the "I have to buy right now" panic starts to fade. That's a problem for sellers who are pricing homes like renters are still desperate. It's an opening for renters who can negotiate. It's a weird middle zone for operators. Transaction volume can stay soft even while demand exists, because renters don't feel forced to convert into buyers. You can see why Realtor.com's starter home numbers matter here. In June 2025, Realtor.com found buying a starter home in the top 50 metros costs $908 more per month than renting one, about a 53% premium. And renting was still more affordable in 49 of 50 metros. They also noted the rent advantage narrowed a bit versus a year earlier, but it was still much larger than So even when rates ease, the buy-side premium doesn't just disappear. Now put that back into the 10-city walk we started. In San Francisco and Los Angeles, the gap is so wide that buying becomes a lifestyle decision or a wealth decision, not a smart monthly trade. In New York and DC, the gap is smaller, but the cost stack is already high, so buyers feel punished for choosing stability. In Chicago, the spread is tight enough that buying can still look like a defensible move for households planning to stay, which is why Rust Belt metros often show smaller gaps in bank rates study. In Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta, the gap surprises people because those markets still carry an affordable reputation while the payment reality moved on. Miami sits in its own category. Demand is real, but the monthly carrying cost risk is real too. Here's the historical heartbeat underneath all of this. Mortgage rates stay in one place. The Freddie Mac series published via Fred shows a long history of swings, including periods that make today's rates look tame. People who buy with a thin margin because rates will fall and ILL refi are betting their life on a forecast. Sometimes that bet pays, sometimes it traps them. So 2025's rent versus buy tension isn't just rent is cheaper, it's this. Renters got a little negotiating power back as supply arrived, while buyers still faced a payment premium in most major metros. That creates a pause, a standoff. And standoffs end, suddenly, either with a rate drop that unlocks demand, or with economic stress that forces sellers to meet the market. In real estate, the monthlies decide who blinks first. If you're trying to decide between renting and buying in a big US city right now, the smartest move is to stop arguing with the internet and start arguing with your own monthly budget. The gap isn't theoretical. Bankrate S2025 analysis says renting is cheaper than carrying a mortgage payment in every one of the 50 largest metros, with the average mortgage payment running about 38% higher per month. Realtor.com. June 2025 Redon Starter Homes says the rent advantage still held in 49 of 50 metros, with average monthly savings around $908. That means a lot of people aren't choosing to rent. They're being priced into patience. So what do you do with that? If you're a buyer, treat the mortgage quote like a stress test, not a trophy. Run the payment with a higher insurance bill than you expect. Assume taxes rise. Assume something breaks the first year. If the deal only works in a perfect year, it's not a deal. If you're renting, don't sleepwalk into a renewal. Late 2025 rent data showed softening in some areas. Apartment List reported the median rent fell in November and noted elevated new supply deliveries in 2024 and 2025. That's leverage. Use it. Ask for concessions. Ask for a longer term. Pushback. Operators. The warning is blunt. Don't price homes like renters are still panicking. A rate dip can create bursts of demand. Freddie Mac's survey showed the 30-year ending 2025 around 6.15%, and Reuters reported pending home sales jumped in November as affordability improved. But renters with options don't convert into buyers just because you want them to. They convert when the payment feels survivable. Here's the question for the comments. In your city, is the real risk missing the bottom, or getting locked into a payment that turns normal life into constant damage control? Hit like, subscribe, and tell me what city and country you're watching from. Every data source cited in this video is listed in the description.